There's a big national holiday coming up, Juneteenth. That's coming up June the 19th, but there are many activities prior to that and leading up to that historic holiday. We're going to talk more about that here on St. Louis in Tune. Welcome to St. Louis in Tune, and thank you for joining us for fresh perspectives on issues and events with experts, community leaders, and everyday people who are driving change and making an impact that shapes our society and world. I'm Arnold Stricker, your host. Co-host Mark Langston is on assignment today. Our return to civility. It deals with exactly what we're talking about. Learn about cultural and religious holidays other than your own. You might want to wish someone a happy Rosh Hashanah or a Mexican Independence Day, etc., to your friends from other cultures. But the holiday we're going to be talking about today just recently became a national holiday. And I believe that was signed by President Biden last year. And in studio, we have Celeste Grayer. She is a multidisciplined artist and social worker in our community here, a graduate both of the University of Missouri St. Louis and St. Louis University. Celeste combines her artistry and passion for the community by mentoring young artists and exposing urban youth to various art forms. She's worked for several organizations and nonprofits, including the St. Louis Public Schools, New Sunny Mount Baptist Church, Link STL, Art Goes North, and the Delmar Loop. She organizes community-wide events, serves on the board of directors for Shoefly and STL Links, and is the founder and owner of the True Trifecta. You can follow her at True_Trifecta. She's also a social worker for St. Louis Public Schools. Celeste, good to see you again. Welcome back to St. Louis in Tune.
Thank you for having me back. It's always a pleasure.
You are here to talk about the Juneteenth events in the Loop. And the Loop, folks, if you're not familiar with the Loop, it's on Delmar, and it runs between University City, the heart of University City, down into the western part of St. Louis, city of St. Louis. And Celeste, tell us what some of the activities are going to be happening coming up here.
The best part about, again, we're doing this Saturday, June 15th. And I think the biggest thing that's the best part about this celebration is that we are hosting it an all-day event with 4 organizations coming together. So the U City side of the Loop and the East Loop is coming together to build with Delmar, Maine, and also Race Reconciliation. All of our partners are coming together to build one day, one race, one street, and 4 organizations.
And that's the first time that's happened?
Yes, the first time that's happened.
Wow.
And so a lot of people have worked hard to make sure that this happened, and it's a full packed day. So we're starting at about 8 o'clock with our 5K race with Race Reconciliation, and that's going to last about 10:30, 11 o'clock with all the awards in the race. And we're also having a vendor fair from about 8:30 to about 4 o'clock. And then at Delmar and Hamilton, pretty much right across the street from St. Louis Artworks, we are having, I call it the Juneteenth Jam session. That's going to be filled with live music and a car show, again, giving the community something to celebrate with food, drinks from business owners that are there. Poor Decisions will be there with us. Vales Brothers, Bougie Bites is going to be on site. So we're just trying to have a full packed day. So if you get to come and celebrate from 8 till 4 with a vendor fair, if not, you have some other events happening, you're coming to celebrate at the end of the day with us from 5 to 9. So it's a full day and one street that's having this time of fun and celebration of Juneteenth.
And you're doing that on the 15th, the Saturday, because Juneteenth is a Wednesday,
yes.
Correct. What did it take for those 4 organizations to get together? Let's talk about that for a moment, if you can do that, because previously, who was sponsoring the Juneteenth events down there on the Delmar Loop?
I started it about 4 years ago. The whole concept of somebody saying your name in a room is so true. I've been working with, I'm very embedded in our African Center culture here in St. Louis, and one of my friends said my name at a board meeting, and I got a phone call later.
And you weren't even there.
No, it's so true. I say that because it's important. Your character precedes yourself, and those things really do happen. I used to think it didn't happen, but it does. Right. It does. And so that's how we started. So I was invited to a meeting and created this I call it a baby, a Juneteenth baby that is now grown and spread to a wide of communities. So that's how we started. And I've been stretching out again, connecting to multiple businesses across St. Louis area. So from that, we started talking to the U City side to see if they want to be a part. And then, as you may know, Delmar Main and Delmar Divine started growing during this time of us having the Juneteenth celebrations. And so we talked about really just celebrating all one day rather than having multiple celebrations. So that's how everybody came together, and just adding new components. I'm big on adding new components every year, again, to reaching a different population of people. So that's why we added the race this year. The race community, the runner community here in St. Louis is very strong. Absolutely. Again, another way to reach a different community with education about Juneteenth. And then you get to celebrate, spend some time. And again, it's about the circle of giving back. You may run, and then you get to support a Delmar Loop business or also a Black business that's there for the vendor fair. It's just, again, connecting and educating and learning all at the same time by doing something that you love. So that's something that, again, we try to do those things. Everybody in these organizations have been wonderful. Brandon runs Race and Reconciliation. Miss Lisa Potts is one of the founders or one of the spokespersons for Delmar Main. And then Jessica Bueller works for U City. And then I work under my lovely boss, Samantha Smugla, who works for the East Loop. Us bringing together this entire event has been pretty amazing.
Now, the street's going to be shut down?
Yes, the street's going to be shut down at about 6 a.m. till about 10, just for the race. And the race is literally on Delmar. It's one race, a 5K race that kind of loops back around. And that's the purpose, to bring awareness of another reason why we're having there is because of the divide. So we're trying to really bridge the gap of what history has been in the Delmar Loop and what we are trying to bring it together now, really for the community.
Because if you go back historically, Skinker's the dividing line, the city between the city and University City there, and the U City Loop seemed to develop itself, especially in the early 2000s.
Correct.
And then now East Loop has really come on strong.
Yes. And so that's, again, multiple organizations. Everybody has the same goal, is building businesses, helping people, helping communities grow. And so let's just do that in one day.
That sounds like a plan. So we've got the 5K race for reconciliation that starts at 8:30 a.m., and it's going to be running up and down. That goes from the U City Hall to De Bolivar and back. Yes. And De Bolivar's up by what I would call the old train station up there. Yes. And then we have the vendor fair and artistic delights. Can a vendor still apply to get in?
I think we may have a couple of spots left, so they can call or get on the website from delmarloop.com if they would like to see if we have some extra spots. I think we got a couple of spots left.
And are these going to be in tent areas, or how's this going to be?
So we're actually going to be at the Tivoli parking lot. So that right next to the Tivoli, that parking lot, that's in between the beautiful murals that were just done on Delmar Loop as well. So we're going to be in that parking lot. That is going to be the start and the beginning of the race. Okay. And that's where all the vendors are going to be held as well.
Gotcha. Okay. And then there's an evening celebration. You mentioned a little bit, but is Red, Black, and Brass Band going to be there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So talk about that. That's going to be down in the 5900 block?
Yes, absolutely. It's right there at Delmar and Hamilton. And so we're usually, every year I start with an open drum call, just, again, thanking the ancestors for, again, the knowledge, the courtesy, the love. So we do that. And then we're also going to I try to incorporate multiple things during that festival. It's really about our ancestors and then encouraging our new ancestors. I call our youth. And so I have OV, which is Gentlemen of Vision. They are a step team. It's phenomenal. Again, bringing them on as well. And then I have Spirit of Angela, African Dance and Drumming, which is a beautiful stuff of women and men and a lot of young teens who are completely professional African drummers. And then we are going to end the night with a Red and Black Brass Band, which I know many people have seen here in the community, especially on the South Side. That's where they started during COVID. Right. And again, another way they give back to the community so much. So this is a full circle of just passion, love, artistry, and so that people can see themselves and then still connect. So that's the best part about that evening.
Now, you're not very excited about this, are
you? And I just love community. I love people, kids, youth, art. Art's everywhere. And you connect with it in different ways.
Tell me why community is important to you and why that should be important to everyone.
Without the community, we don't have a future. And I really believe you teach the youth, the community will thrive. And teaching them at an early age so that they can see themselves. So then when they're my age, 30 and 40, they're like, oh, I want to do exactly what I saw, what I've experienced. I think it's important because if we don't do it, we're not going to have a rich history to look back on. I think it's really important. The concept of you being in the kitchen with your grandmother, learning the lessons in the cooking is important. I am blessed to be able to have done that. And I say the kitchen looks different now. The kitchen is outside. The kitchen is maybe not necessarily in the classroom or in the kitchen is different. It may be outside in the community. You may be getting a lesson from a gentleman you had no idea that could teach you something just as small and that may carry you through and help you motivate you for the next time. I try to do that so that everybody can see the learning never stops. The community needs people to keep going in order to make sure that we are going to have a bright future. It's a lot of things happening in our community, and I want to make sure that the brightness that it is, the richness, the color, the life never dims. And the beauty part is there's a lot of people who believe that same thing. And that's why events like this continue to happen and be free. I think that's a big part. I want anything that I do in the community, I want it to be free. There should be no limit to access of learning about education, culture, and just being able to be free and enjoy something that you really love, being around people and get to meet new people and hear music and eat something good and, just fellowship. That is community. That's love.
That was Celeste Grayer, and she was talking about what community is, and she's talking about the Juneteenth celebration that's coming up June the 15th, which is a Saturday because Juneteenth's on a Wednesday this year, and that's going to be down on at the Delmar Loop. And if you want more information for that, you can go to visittheloop.com, and get more information about the Race for Reconciliation. It's a 5K event, and also all of the activities that are going to be going on, and we've talked a little bit about that. Let's talk about you. You were here last year to talk about the Juneteenth event. What's been thriving in your life over the last year?
Oh, just a little bit of everything. I believe community doesn't stop. So I'm a social worker for St. Louis Public Schools. I work at Sumner, and Sumner, for most people, think it's closed. We are not closed. We are thriving and continue to build connections. We have so many beautiful partners. We have art pathways. So I just continue to bridge that gap with our kids. And
discuss that because Sumner, a lot of people did hear it's closed, but there have been multiple organizations have moved in there to keep that high school alive.
Correct. So we have what is called pathways. And so we have dance, art, drama, theater. We have a living arts museum pathway, which really talks about the history. Oh, the best part. My kid, one of our kids right now, he is actually in D.C. because he won National History Day that happens here at UMSL. And he's getting honored on Wednesday at the Smithsonian. His project will be in the Smithsonian. So we are a rich school. Like I said, there's so many, organizations that are attached to us through Craft Alliance, through CAM, through
Shakespeare in the Park.
Shakespeare in the Park, Opera St. Louis. All these organizations have really rallied behind the growth and passions of kids. I always say a scholar is important, right? So a student athlete, and just because it's not necessarily basketball doesn't mean that you can't excel in other things.
Right.
And so we won chess tournaments this year. It's bridging the gaps and tapping into many different areas of that. We have our own Sumner seltzer water. We worked with Cheers Family organization here to help produce that. So our kids are in business, art, chess, academics, and it's happening now. It's simultaneously happening now. My kids in DC being honored and getting ready to hopefully win that National History Day competition in DC, and that's headed by Mr. Williams. So that is those type of things that are working at Sumner have really, I say, lit a fire under our kids and be able to see themselves in different avenues or different professions that they may not have been exposed to.
That's huge. That's huge. This is Arnold Stricker with Mark Langston, who's on assignment. This is St. Louis in Tune. And Celeste, so your involvement at Sumner, you do what? When you walk in the door And then when you exit the door, what do you do every day so everybody knows that you're part of what you just said?
I'm Miss G. I try not to put a title on it. My title is the social worker, but I am another human that kids can connect to and make sure that they're going to be okay, the support system. I'm support all day. Like you said, from the time I walk into an event, a show, a game, a birthday party they want me to come to in the evening, on the weekends, I'm there for them. And I think that's the biggest part of, I try to say to people, it's easy to write a check, but its time is way more. To look for kids to look up in the stand or to look across while they're presenting a project to see that you're supporting them. Maybe silent because you can't really cheer,
right.
Or if you can cheer, I mean, it is huge. So that is what I do. I'm there for them. I'm their support system.
And you've got the True Trifecta.
Yes.
Tell us about True Trifecta.
So True Trifecta is my art company and clothing line business. But again, I connect that too into the school. Again, teaching the kids, this is my degreed job, but I also run a business. I also can connect you. And so I teach them that too. So I run, like I said, community events through my organization. And that's what I try to do, is connect. I'm also an artist as well. I'm telling kids that you can be whatever you want to be. We just finished the mannequin project on the Delmar Loop. That happens every year. This was Miss Audrey Jones, who runs that. This was year 15.
Wow.
It's another way for people to connect. There's high school students that do that. That's a beautiful project. I love it. She also gives back as well. She provides a scholarship to U City students through that for the art program. So it is something that I think they gave they've been giving away like $28,000 away.
Wow. Since
the beginning they started this. So again, I love to connect to things like that, and then you share that. And so people have become onto that project because again, it's about recycling, connecting to the businesses and the community. So again, I try to, within my company, show that that's just not about you. You got to reach out and branch out. That concept of dropping a pebble in the water and the ripples effect happen is very true. How is your ripples affecting the community? Is it positive or negative? So that's what I try to do with True Trifecta, do as much as I can. Some of my friends say I need to slow down, but I can't. It's fun. It's fun for me. It's fun to connect to people. I've done things because of those projects. I've been in fashion shows. I've worked with Salvation Army. I've worked with Bayer Company with fashion shows. It's just, and again, it's all about giving back. So it makes, and giving back and then reaching and connecting to other people who may not have an opportunity. So it's super cool to do things in the community, and then you get to learn somebody else.
What's one of the opportunities that surprised you greatly?
Probably the fashion show with Salvation Army. I received an email because of my mannequin was sitting outside. They're like, "We saw your mannequin. Do you think you can do this fashion show for a cause?" And I was like, "Sure. I think I could do that." I have a problem not saying no, even if I didn't do it. And the mannequin challenge too. I was painting windows in the Delmar Loop with some kids for the holidays. And that's exactly how somebody said, "Hey, I saw that you were painting windows. Can you do a mannequin?" And I said, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Just come to the meeting." And 7 years later, I've been doing mannequins.
Wow.
It's just it's a cool blessing to see, and you're making me think about my journey. And I appreciate that because I want somebody else to have a journey like this. It's authentic. It's true. It's just genuine. And every connection that I've had since, anything I've touched is truly genuine. Just everybody's attached because they want to be. This the love of the community.
So the Salvation Army show, did you go in? Did they want you to go off on the rack there and say, grab some of these things, or how did that happen?
Actually, they usually do like a theme. So like last year's theme was black and white, but I did denim. So it was just, you add your own spin. And so those type of things I think are great. And again, it's exposure for the agency, for the organization. I've worked with Salvation Armies for forever, being a social worker. So to be able to have to deal with some of the sad parts of referring or helping people with Salvation Army, but then get to be on the other side to help raise the money to make sure that the organization can still thrive. Like to have that twofold, that balance is fun for me. Like I get to do that, but I also know that reason I'm doing that is because it helps somebody else.
That's a great perspective, because it is a balance, like a teeter-totter, because you can balance one way or the other. And my words, get burned out a little bit or see no hope. I'm constantly doing this, but when you have that fulcrum to kind of balance off, that's a very interesting perspective.
Yeah, it's great. It helps me stay. The burnout is real. I think it helps me stay, and it continues to feel my purpose of why I'm here. It's not, people say, you do so much. I said, it's for a reason. It's not for me. It's to show people that you can do it too.
Right. We're going to take a brief break. This is Arnold Stricker with Mark Langston. Mark is on assignment, and we're going to take a brief break to catch our breath and ask Celeste some pointed questions, which she's not expecting right now. We'll be right back. This is Arnold Stricker of St. Louis in Tune on behalf of the Dred Scott Heritage Foundation. In 1857, the Dred Scott decision was a major legal event and catalyst that contributed to the Civil War. The decision declared that Dred Scott could not be free because he was not a citizen. The 14th Amendment, also called the Dred Scott Amendment, granted citizenship to all born or naturalized here in our country and was intended to overturn the U.S. Supreme Court decision on July 9, 1868. The Dred Scott Heritage Foundation is requesting a commemorative stamp to be issued from the U.S. Postal Service to recognize and remember the heritage of this amendment by issuing a stamp with the likeness of the man Dred Scott. But we need your support and the support of thousands of people who would like to see this happen. To achieve this goal, we ask you to download, sign, and share the one-page petition with others. To find the petition, please go to dredscottlives.org and click on the Dred Scott Petition Drive on the right side of the page. On behalf of the Dred Scott Heritage Foundation, this has been Arnold Stricker of St. Louis in Tune.
Thanks for listening to St. Louis in Tune. On each and every show, we strive to bring you informative, useful, and reflective stories and interviews about current and historic issues and events that involve people, places, and things. Hey, we cover a wide range of content in the arts, crime, education, employment, faith, finance, food, health, history, housing, and humor, justice, and sports, and that's just to name a few. While St. Louis in Tune originates from the Gateway City and covers local topics, we connect to what is going on nationally as well. If you missed any of our previously aired programs of St. Louis in Tune, simply visit stlintune.com. That's stlintune.com. There you'll find every show from our first to our most current. Use the search engine and look for a show that might interest you. And if you have an area that you'd like us to examine deeper, let us know. Just drop us a line at stlintune@gmail.com. That's stlintune@gmail.com. St. Louis in Tune, heard Monday through Friday on the usradionetwork.com. and many great stations around the U.S. and, of course, right here in St. Louis. Our website again is stlintune.com. stlintune.com.
I want to welcome you back to St. Louis in Tune. This is Arnold Stricker. Mark Langston is on assignment. We've been talking to Celeste Grayer about the Juneteenth celebration down in the Delmar Loop, which will take place June 15th. That's because that's a Saturday, and Juneteenth this year is on a Wednesday. For more information about that, you can go to visittheloop.com. Visittheloop.com. A little history on the Loop, folks. Maybe you didn't know this. The Delmar Loop, it's a boulevard, actually. It's called Delmar Boulevard. But it begins in downtown St. Louis at the Convention Plaza and probably started at the river. And it goes 10 miles out to Western University City, just west of Skinker. Delmar crosses the Skinker's the city boundary line. But the 6-block-long U-City portion, commonly known as the Delmar Loop, got its name at the turn of the 20th century from the streetcar line, and I've been on that streetcar when I was very young, which ran west on Delmar and looped around the corner of the Delmar Garden Amusement Park to return to downtown St. Louis. Now, I wasn't around for the Delmar Garden Amusement Park, but the streetcar still ran. And even before the St. Louis World's Fair came in 1904, it's not really the St. Louis World's Fair, that's not the name of it, it's the Louisiana Exposition. The Delmar streetcar came west, bringing visitors to Delmar Garden to escape the heat of the city, enjoy an afternoon of theater, dining, and amusement park entertainment. There was an amusement park down there by Eastgate and Westgate. That's why they were gates down there. Those were actually gates to an area where this amusement area was. And there was a swimming pool and a roller rink and a lot of things. And then in 1906, University City was incorporated by Edward Lewis, E.G. Lewis. He moved his publishing company. The City Hall right now was actually the headquarters of his publishing magazine, which was a magazine for women. There's U City Pottery, which is very rare and collectible, which was taken on during that time. So there's a huge commercial district back there, and then more retailers opened up. And it's just continued. And now it's moved east of Skinker, where you see like the pageant, and you see the moonrise, and there's a little golf course across the street from that, and even further up to where the old Wabash train station, the trains used to come in there. I remember dropping my grandmother off there. I didn't drop her. My dad dropped my grandmother off there to catch a train to go to Kansas City there. Believe that or not.
Wow.
That's where the Metrolink runs underneath there now. Yes. And then even east of that, there's more going on. There's a lot more activity down to, I'm trying to think, past to Bolivar.
Past to Bolivar, past Union, because Craft Alliance is down there.
Craft Alliance,
Made is down there.
Yeah, there's some restaurants going in there now.
Absolutely. Third Degree Glass is down there.
Yes, that's on the other side of Union. Mm-hmm. That's east of Union. Interesting. Check out the history of our area. It's very vibrant and goes back to really kind of who we are as St. Louisans and what has divided us and what brings us together. So a little bit more about Juneteenth activities. If you're not around on the 15th, which you would be sad that you're not around on the 15th to be able to go to these wonderful activities, June the 11th. Here are some, I'm just going to read some dates. The history of Juneteenth at the Missouri History Museum, June the 13th. Also, a Juneteenth celebration at the Missouri History Museum, June the 14th. This is a Friday at the St. Louis Art Museum, also the St. Louis County Library, Lewis and Clark branch. What we've talked about on June 15th, the Loop Festival going on down there. Ferguson, City of Ferguson has something. TrailNet is doing something, a TrailNet ride on June 15th. The Natural Bridge branch of the St. Louis County Library is having a celebration. Also, there is the 4th Annual Juneteenth Caribbean Heritage Festival going on there. We've got June the 17th at the Grand Center Arts District. There's a lot of activities. Juneteenth Family Day. June the 18th, the Milley Project, a unique Freedom Suit case and its historical implications. That's at the Law Library Association and the Freedom Suits Memorial Foundation, probably down at the Civic Courts building. Also now on Juneteenth, the official day, the 3rd Annual Juneteenth celebration at the Griot Museum of Black History. City of Delwood has their festival, Missouri Botanical Garden. And then on June the 22nd, which is after the official Juneteenth, it's the 4th Annual Juneteenth celebration with the Old North St. Louis Community Wellness Project. So a lot of things happening. And I'm going to ask Celeste, when did you first learn about Juneteenth?
Probably I started working my parents really did that, but then really honing in on it and what its meaning is, I think really spending time, probably about 2015, getting connected to some of the elders in the community and really learning about the history. Again, even the history in our city about it, and and then the growth of it, and then like how do you make it reflect now, and bringing in people to have an understanding, and because it has to evolve, it has to grow, it has to give new education for people to connect, and how do we help, those type of things. And so that I learned that it's been a while.
Yes.
You learn about things as you grow, and then you help and create your own understanding, and then again you learn new information all the time about what it really was, what happened, how it got to the point where it really became 1865, those type of things.
Right.
So that's always been learn something new. I always learn something new about our culture and anybody's culture.
Yeah, so. She mentioned 1865, folks. So for those of you who don't know about Juneteenth, here's a little bit quick history. I'm going to run through it. It marks the day when federal troops arrived in Galveston, Texas, to take control of the state and ensure that all enslaved people were freed. So you remember back the January 1, 1863, Abraham Lincoln, then president, issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which really covered the Confederate states who they didn't have any federal troops in. But as soon as federal troops moved into a state, those slaves were to be freed. Well, Texas didn't get the information that the war had ended, actually in April, 12th or 13th, somewhere around there, until this was June 19th of 1865. So it was several months, but it was 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. And when Major General Gordon Granger landed at Galveston with the news the war was over, folks, and enslaved people were now free, it was an impact. And it was very fascinating when you read stories of those who were enslaved when they heard the news, what they immediately did.
Yes.
They got up and left.
Yes.
They went to some northern cities, and they got out of Dodge, okay? Not the Dodge cities in Texas.
Right.
It's an idiom saying, get out of Dodge.
Yes.
So it was a general order, number 3. It was his first order of business. I'm going to read you the general order. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired laborer. So those individuals who were enslaved that wanted to continue, they were now going to be paid. And he was telling, now if you've owned individuals, now you don't own them anymore. You need to pay them as an employer-employee kind of relationship. So there were a lot of festivities. It was celebrated a great deal in Texas at the time, and celebrations declined over the years, especially around the early 1900s. And the Depression forced a lot of people off farms and into cities. There was a resurgence because of the civil rights movement in the 60s, because actually in 1962, I believe it was Ralph Abernathy had a celebration, a Juneteenth celebration in Washington, D.C., and that kind of spurred a new interest, how I would say that, in Juneteenth and activities. And it's about community, it's about food, it's about music, it's about dance, and there is a Juneteenth flag. Tried to get the individual on several years ago. We've talked about several Juneteenth activities. We had the individual who started the Juneteenth.com website. That was very interesting. And you can get a lot of information and learn a lot. So I was curious what your background on that had been.
Yeah, that's what I've learned about things as you grow, but that, and really spending time with my elders. I always tell people, when I first started the Juneteenth, people are like, why did you start? I said, I really asked permission from the elders to really make sure that I was doing something in line. I'm very big on that. And also making sure that it never becomes commercialized.
Now, when you mention elders, explain that to people so they understand.
When I say elders, people like, and we're talking in the term of grandparents or people who have been around for 60 plus years, the term of sitting at your ancestors' feet. As a 40-year-old young woman, I believed in still doing that.
You have respect for that?
Yes, my respect level is by far. When I say I literally ask to permission to make sure I'm still in line, and like I conversate with them during and then after to make sure that it doesn't lose its meaning, because it's easy for things to get commercialized.
Right.
And I try to make sure that doesn't happen for things that I'm involved in, maybe Juneteenth or anything else that I'm involved in, just so that the authenticity stays, and really making sure that people have understanding that it's really brought up in culture and love and education. So that's really how I really learned about it. Just like with anything else, you learned about church or any cultural concepts of your family. And then as you grow, you evolve and you change and you learn what it means to you, and you learn what it meant back for people that maybe taught you or grew up or you're around, and some of the elders in the community. So that's how I reach back and still connect. And then listening to my elders and talk about community things that have happened, and like how events happen in the neighborhood. And that was for a reason, so that the great grannies didn't have to travel to an event. The events happen in the streets so that they can be connected, and that maybe they couldn't afford to go across town, but I can cook something, we can sit on the porch, we can have a conversation, still get to engage and things like that. That's how I learned like how Annie Malone happened, and how some of the biggest festivals or cultural festivals happen. They remain in the neighborhood, and they just keep getting bigger so that you never lose the cultural piece, because that's how people remember it. That's how people created it. That's how it started. And then again, that means you get to reach, are you reaching now to then, so that another granny, another uncle, another relative can then teach and show you the history steps. Just like we talked about Delmar, there's so many streets and festivals that happen in St. Louis that started in a neighborhood,
right,
a community, and now it's large. Let's figure out how to expand it so that the person that was there when it first started gets to see the evolution. They learn too still. Like they get to see and grow and be proud. Like it's an honor for them to, when I talk to them or go see them, they're like, Celeste, you're doing a great thing. And I'm like, that's a big deal to me because I never want to lose those connections and making sure that the kids and the youth that are coming up, they have that same respect and honor for
and that's a
something
tough
else.
thing. That's a really tough thing. And I greatly respect what you said about the commercialization, because when you look at other holidays, Juneteenth is a new holiday, a new national holiday, and which means the post office is going to be closed, banks are going to be closed. Okay, so folks be ready for that. But it's when you look at Memorial Day or you look at July 4th, or you look at Veterans Day, and it's a day off. Oh, the pools are open, and there's a mattress sale. Oh, we're going to have fireworks, and it's not about that stuff. It's about what was the underlying support that was the foundation of why this holiday was declared in the beginning.
Correct. Yes. And
so when you talk about, I don't want it commercialized, I'm like, because it just removes the focus to a business trying to make money versus trying to support a community in who they are.
Absolutely. That's the point. If you support the community, it never dies.
That's correct.
Die.
How do you make that connection with the youth like that? I know you're doing that and at your work, and I know through things like they're going to be happening at the Loop in the Juneteenth celebration. How do you get into, because there's so many distractions?
It is. I think the best part is teaching kids, and that's what I try to do, is to be invested. So I always, want you to come and hang out with me and sit along with me, maybe painting or handing out things to the community so you can see like me handing this product or me picking up trash or handing out items in the community makes you invested. I want to come back. I've done mural work. I did mural work in Hyde Park I think this is year 5 that the mural's still up. And like kids in that neighborhood who I never met before that live around the corner, they helped me paint that wall.
They have an investment.
Exactly, are attached to it. And guess what? It hasn't been tagged. And they told me, Ms. G, we're going to make sure this mural stays up. But they did that because they put the love into it too. So I think it's really teaching kids to be invested and not always, I'm big on this too, not always. I think it's important for people to get paid. I'm big on that too. It's important, but it's a balance of payment and connection. Are you connected? And then if you have a skill, let's get you paid too. But the investment first, like it's okay to help without receiving anything. That's a very big, again, it's a golden rule. You don't get just to receive. You give because you are connected and wants to see something grow and be happy with it. So I think to me, that's what I try to do, that balance of come and help with me. But the next time you've been invested, you've done this with me 5 or 6 times. Now you want to host, I'm going to make sure you get paid. So like now it's a reaching back concept of I can do this volunteer work, but I also have a skill that I've built and learned, and now I get to do this. So like I think that's the biggest thing. Is trying to make people connected, invested, and that's with adults too. That's how I do it. I'm like, well, let me sit next to you and let's see what happened. what event are you going to go to? I'm going to come. And that's how you get connected. That's how you stay connected, and continue to give back.
If you haven't been inspired by this conversation, you need to pinch yourself or poke yourself with a pin. Celeste, I really appreciate you coming in and talking to us today.
Absolutely.
It's been great. And folks, again, visit theloop.com, get more information on the Juneteenth. Give us a 30-second commercial on this, Celeste.
All right, so about 8:30 to 9 o'clock. So it starts at 8:30 with the Racing and Reconciliation Vendor Fair from 8 to 4, and then the Juneteenth Jam session from 5 to 9 at Delmar and Hamilton. Please come out. Any point of the day, it's going to be great.
You heard it, folks, right here on St. Louis in Tune. Well, that's all for this hour. We thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, you can listen to additional shows at stlintune.com. Consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners and continue to grow. We want to thank Bob Berthasell for our theme music and co-host Mark Langston, who's on assignment today. And we thank you for being a part of our community of curious minds. St. Louis in Tune is a production of Motif Media Group and the U.S. Radio Network. Remember to keep seeking, keep learning, walk worthy, and let your light shine. For St. Louis in Tune, I'm Arnold Stricker.